Hey guys, I'm Sarah and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing a recent reads video, and I have a whole bunch of books to talk about today, so we're going to jump right into it. But just so you know, if you want to know like further content details or my further thoughts that I may have forgotten to mention here, because some of these I read way back at the beginning of March, it is now like the beginning of April when I'm filming this, so I might have some fuzzy details on certain things that I may have specified more in those reviews. If you're interested in any of those books in any way, I would encourage you to check out my Goodreads reviews of these below for like further content and thoughts. I will link my reviews to each of these books down in the description below, so if you're interested in any of them, you can check those out there. But we're going to just jump right into it, and we're going to start with my first DNF of the year, and that is the Fact Book of Shoujoing by, I have no idea how to say the author's name, it's up there. If you have any idea, have at it. This is just like a nonfiction horse book about jumping, supposedly. It was very weird. I DNF'd it because it was kind of boring. Like literally I read a page and I forgot it. Like the second I moved to something else, or even just the next page, I completely forgot what I had just read. So I totally, yeah, it was pretty much boring, and also the information wasn't very good. And yeah, the author was also jumping all over the place. She was talking about things that wasn't even related to show jumping at all. So it was like, I think you're trying to do way too much for what you're saying you're doing. So yeah, I DNF'd it, and I will be unhauling it. So yeah, first DNF of the year. Okay, the next few books I have to talk about, I can't say too much about because they're continuations of series I have started. And the first one is Phantom's Lament by Noelle Nichols. This is the book 2 in the Shadows Creed saga. I believe in one of my recent reads videos, I forget if it was for February or January, I forget. When I find it, I'll link it down in the description below. I read the first book, Shadow's Hand. This is an Asian-inspired fantasy. It's very anime-like, so if you like anime, manga, that type of thing, you probably really like this series. And in this, we just continue to follow these characters as war is kind of spreading across their country, and they're trying to stop it, and then there's these magical powers they're trying to figure out of like how they work and how to stop the main villain and stuff happens from there. I can't say much more because it immediately follows after Shadow's Hand. You need to read Shadow's Hands first, obviously, to continue with this book. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. I gave this book 4 stars. I really enjoyed seeing where the characters went. We also got the point of view in here from the main villain, and that was interesting. I didn't like her, but it's like I got to understand more of her point of view of why I think she was doing what she was doing and stuff. But yeah, it was very interesting. But yeah, I also didn't really like her that much either. So, but we also continue to follow Kilo and Shinrei as well, and I really enjoy both these characters. They've grown a ton, and yeah, I highly recommend this series. I don't know when book 3 is going to be released. I think the author's still working on it, but yeah, I'm very excited for whenever it does release because this is an amazing series. Okay, the next 2 I read are part of a ongoing manga series, and that is Yono the Dawn. I read volumes 37 and 38. I buddy read these with my friend Laura. And 37, funnily enough, was published last year in like October, but since there was a delay in release until March for volume 38, and I had heard 37 ended on a devastating cliffhanger, I opted to wait until 38 came out, which was like the beginning of March or something like that, to read them, and I'm very glad I did because the cliffhanger in this one was a killer. This one's kind of on a cliffhanger too, but it's less of a killer than this one was, and yeah, I can't say much more about these. Obviously, they're volumes 38, 37, 38 in a very long, very ongoing series, but it's fantasy, it's amazing. I love these characters so much, and I was very glad to get back into the story, and talking about my thoughts with them with Laura was really, really fun. So yeah, I really enjoy these. I gave both of these 5 stars. Really, really enjoy them, and I highly recommend this series if you're looking for a clean manga. It's around, with like the violence and stuff, it's around like I would rate it as a PG-13. It has a little bit of language, but not really that much. And it's nothing really major in my opinion, but that is my opinion. But yeah, if you're looking for like a PG-13 rated clean manga that's really fun, has awesome characters, and yeah, a lot of hard messages along with just having fun with it, things, I highly recommend this series. It's my favorite manga series ever. And the last one that I am continuing, sorry I was waking up the iPad, that I finished this just a few days ago, and that's Haikyuu Volume 3. This is a manga about these high school boys and volleyball. It sounds really kind of boring, but it's really not. This one especially, we go into more, we go into specifics about a couple of new characters, of like why they stopped being on the team and stuff like that, and then kind of reintegrating them into it, and it was very, very good. I liked this one more than Volume 2, even though I rated this one and that one 4 stars, but this one really dug into a couple of the characters, and I really enjoyed that. The intensity was just very clear on the page, and yeah, and I really like the way this mangaka draws the action shots. It's really, really intense. It's like, it's really good, but also really intense, and it's just, you can feel the emotion through it, and I really like that. So yeah, I am really enjoying this series, and am looking forward to reading Volume 4. Okay, the next, like, category I have of things, I kind of have them all separated into certain categories of books and stuff. Anyways, the next one I have is another anthology, because I seem to be reading a lot of anthologies this year, I've noticed. And the first one I read is 5 Poison Apples. This is a collection of Snow White retellings done by, let's see, 5 different authors. I'm not gonna try saying their names because I'll probably say them wrong. But yeah, this is just a collection of these novellas, all taking different takes on the Snow White fairy tale. And so for like one of them, the first one we have like a circus with like fae and stuff. The second one's more of a classic adventure fantasy, which was actually my favorite in the series. I really liked that one. It's just kind of a non-magical, kind of almost like a Kingdom Adventure take, but it's almost historical feeling, but it's a fantasy. It's really good. I really enjoyed that one. The next one was kind of a like a desert themed retelling of Snow White with kind of like a quest and stuff. I didn't like that one as much. That's the third one in the collection. But it was still good. It just wasn't my favorite. Then we have the kind of Victorian-esque vampire story. That one was interesting. I actually ended up being my second favorite in the whole thing. In the whole collection, I really did not expect Snow White and vampires to go together so well, and it did. I mean, it was like very clear when you were reading it, of like, actually it wasn't clear. It was very unclear of like who's the real villain here. Is it the queen? Is it the princess? What is going on here? And that story in particular is also told from the huntsman's perspective, so I really liked the twist on that. But yeah, Snow White and vampires, it actually works really well together. And the last one is actually a contemporary. It's a contemporary story set in like a ballet school in New York. I think it does combine Snow White with another fairy tale, which is called The Red Slippers, I believe. I believe it's a combination of those two. I know nothing about The Red Slippers. I do know I've heard of some other fairy tale retellings that people have done of it, but I don't know what the story is, but I do believe it is a combination of the two. And yeah, I really enjoyed the take on it, and yeah, these were all really, really good stories, and I just really enjoyed them. Funny thing about this, this is just a side tangent here about this. This is published by Rugelwood Press, which is a small independent publishing house. And these collections, these 5, whatever they are, Poison Apples, they have 3 other collections that they did. This was actually a contest thing that they did, where you would write a novella and send it in, and then they would pick their top 5 and put them in the bind up here. Actually, 5 Poison Apples was their last contest they did, and it was actually one I entered. I entered a story in it. It obviously didn't win, which I'm kind of glad about it, because that story is not up to par to the way I write nowadays, and I think I could expand it to be something bigger. But it's just really fun seeing who actually won and reading the actual winning stories, because it was not me. But it is really just really fun reading the actual winning entries of this, because I had entered that, and it's just kind of cool. Okay, and I gave this 4 stars, by the way. I don't know if I said that. Anyways, and the other anthology I read was Tales from the Tower. This is published by Ye Old Dragon Books, I believe. They might just do anthologies. I think they do a whole bunch of anthologies. This is the one. This is the only one of theirs I've read. It is a bunch of short stories of retellings of Rapunzel in various forms, from like fantasy to like more historical or contemporary settings. Some of them are very lighthearted and funny. Some of them are more serious, and it's just a whole variety of tales. Actually, this is one of the first anthologies I've read so far where I pretty much liked all the stories. There were only like a couple I could I was just like give or take. But I really enjoyed all of these. I had several favorites. One of them involves a zombie apocalypse in a fantasy world. That one was one of my favorites. I loved that. It's just like, you wouldn't think that would work in a Rapunzel retelling, but it does. And yeah, I really enjoyed these. So if you like the Rapunzel fairy tale and you really want to, and you like reading retellings of them, lots of retellings of them like I do, I would recommend this one because it's actually really good. I wasn't sure at first. One of my friends has a piece published in this, which is initially why I got it. I mean, I was gonna get it anyways because it is Rapunzel and I do like those. But yeah, I enjoyed it way more than I thought I would. And yeah, just really, really enjoyed this one. I gave this one 4 stars as well. Okay, my next section, let me just grab the books here. These are like series I've completed, and they're all in the same universe. They're all written by the same author. And Buddy read all of these with my family because with my mom and my sister. The thing is, my mom, she got a Kindle, and the thing is, she reads mostly nonfiction, so when you get the Kindle, you get a free subscription for a certain amount of time to Kindle Unlimited. So she was wondering how to use it and stuff, so I suggested that we could just read certain books together as a family, and we started with Cam Shea's kind of Magiford Supernatural City, like interconnected universe series. These are all urban fantasy stories. They take place in the Midwest of the United States in this city called Magiford. I believe that's how you say it. I honestly don't know. Could be Magiford, but I think it's Magiford, kind of like magic. But yeah, where in each trilogy we follow a different set of characters. The other characters from other trilogies do come in and like interact with the main set of characters that we deal with. And yeah, if you do read these books, I would recommend reading them in publication order, which is the way I'm going to be showing them to you. We've read completely 2 out of the 3 trilogies. We're working on finishing the 3rd trilogy. Actually, there's 4 trilogies so far in this universe. The 4th one just came out and wrapped up in March. Get my thoughts together. So yeah, we have read 2 out of 4 of them. We're working on finishing up the 3rd one, and the very first one is Hall of Blood and Mercy. This includes Magic Forged, Magic Redeemed, and Magic Unleashed. This is the first trilogy in this series, and in this one, because in each series we follow a different set of supernatural creatures. In this one we follow wizards and vampires. And in the very first book, Magic Forged, we meet Hazel Medias. She is a wizard, but she barely has any magic at all. Basically, she's the weakest one in her house, but she is also the heir to her house, which causes some conflict when things happen Her parents die in a car accident. That is not a spoiler. It's on the back cover. It actually happens in the first chapter, I think. And she ends up being, obviously, since she's the heir of the house, she ends up being put in charge. Unfortunately, some wizards in her house don't like that. And basically, a coup happens on her house, and she must run away to avoid being killed, because if she's not there, they can't take over the house, which is it's a sentient magical house, so it can like grow and it like bonds with people and stuff, and it has a personality of its own. It's really funny. Anyways, so they need her the people who took over her house need her in order to make the house do things for them. So she runs away, and the only supernatural in the city who's willing to help her, oddly enough, is Killian Drake. He is the eminence of the Midwest, and head of the biggest vampire family in the Midwest. And yeah, at first Hazel tries to avoid him because she's like, he's a vampire. We're a little wary about vampires. And yeah, and then there's things happen, and then Killian decides, okay, I'm gonna train you, because we're gonna, I'm gonna train you so you can take back your house, well, at least eventually. So yeah, and he also thinks, this is also on the back cover, so this is not a spoiler, he believes she has more magic than just the tiny little bit that she has been using so far, and so he's gonna train her, hoping to unlock this magic. And yeah, and then chaos ensues of just various different things throughout the whole series. This was the one series in the Magiford universe that I didn't think I would like, mainly because of the vampire thing. I am not against vampires, obviously. If you've been following me from the very beginning, or just have been watching most of my recent reads videos, I've read several books with vampires in them. I am not against it. I just wasn't sure how it would be handled. The author handled the vampire thing very, very well. She handled it in a very clean manner. Like, yes, they still drink blood. I mean, they're vampires, but there's ways around it that she worked around it that made sense for the world, made sense for the characters and how they were doing things, and it was never gruesome in any way. Because I applaud the author for doing that, because that would be a very fine line to walk on with, vampires, that they drink blood. So yeah, I really enjoyed these series. Hazel is amazing. I really loved her. The Drakes, which is the vampire family, at first, in the very first book, they were a little standoffish and I wasn't sure about them, but I grew to love them. Even Killian, even though he is a little, how would you say this? He's a little bit of a hard nut to crack at first, but I kind of figured he was when I started reading. I was like, there's more to this guy than we're being led on. And I really enjoyed it. Obviously the wizards have magic and stuff, and there's just a whole bunch of stuff going on because there's like people attacking the Drake family as well, and then you have Hazel's thing with her house being taken over and she's trying to get it back, and there's a whole different varying degrees. The reason I say to read these in publication order is because there is an overarching series thread where there's this weird outside force or something attacking these supernaturals. I can't say much more because it is a spoiler, but it does carry on throughout all these series so far. That has not been resolved yet. So I would say definitely read them in publication order, because you'll also get spoilers for how, like, say this series ends in the next series and stuff like that. So you will get spoilers in that manner. So that's why I say read them in publication order, which means you would start with Hall of Blood and Mercy, and I really enjoyed these. I gave books 2 and 3 5 stars, and book 1 I got 4.5 stars. This one I gave a little bit less of a rating, or of a higher rating, because she was just introducing the world, and it felt a little slow at first, and not right like the snarky type writing that this author is known for, but it picked up in the last half of the book, which is why I gave it a 4.5 star, and yeah, really, really enjoyed these. And I think, at least for my mom, she also really loved this series. These are actually her books that I'm using. I haven't bought my copies yet. All I have are ebooks, but those are those are not as good as physical copies. And then the next series we read, which is the second trilogy in the series, is the Court of Midnight and Deception series. And the first book is Crown of Shadows. Sorry, I'm trying to find the camera. Crown of Shadows. The second one is Crown of Moonlight. And the third one is The Queen's Crown. These are, we follow in this one, we follow Layla. She is, basically she's just going to, she is half fae, and she's half fae, half human, and she's just planning on living her normal human life without any fae interference. And then one day, these, yeah, that's not a spoiler because they show up in the first chapter. Okay. These horses, these fae horses called Nightmares, they show up in her yard. And basically then these fae show up like several days later, and they're like, oh, yeah, by the way, these Nightmares, they choose our next ruler, and they've chosen you. And Layla's just like, what? I do not want this job. I do not want to rule you people. I do not even like fae. Even though I'm half fae, I do not like them. And also on top of that, so basically she is made into the Night Court, the Fae Night Court's queen. Except the Fae don't want her. She doesn't want to rule them, but she really has no choice because the Nightmares bound her to the court. So she's stuck with the job, whether she wants it or not. And then on top of everything else, someone's out to kill her. I mean, there's multiple assassination attempts on her life, and yeah, and oh, and to add on top of everything else, in order to secure her crown as the Night Queen, the Queen of the Night Court, she has to get married to a Fae Lord. You know, so sure, let's add an arranged marriage on top of everything. And yeah, and things go from there. Layla, so far, of the main heroines of these series, Layla so far is the most snarky, most sarcastic one, and her humor is a hoot. I love listening to her talk and stuff. She also is an animal lover. I also am an animal lover, so I really love that, how she dotes on all these nightmare horses, which are like creepy looking and stuff, and she just like dotes on them and tells them how cute they are, and everybody else is just like, that horse looks like the apocalypse horse, and it has like razor sharp teeth and red eyes. How are you calling it cute? And yeah, and then there's like these like fae creatures that are like giant dogs, giant cats, and they're kind of creepy looking too, and she thinks they're adorable, and she names them all kinds of weird things. Like, I know one of the dogs, which is called a Shade, I believe, she names it Steve. And it's just crazy things like that. It's on brand for this author's humor. And then obviously she has to get married. She makes friends in these worlds. The very first book, Crown of Shadows, I gave 4 stars. If I'm being honest, I should probably drop the rating to like 3.5 stars. I found that one, it dragged a bit, mainly because Layla didn't really have any friends in the Night Court. She had to obviously make friends and stuff like that, but she really had no interaction with other people aside from people are trying to kill me. I have to avoid them, and I have to deal with these extremely petty fae who are extremely irritating and are driving me nuts. And yeah. And then we also meet, obviously, her future husband, who becomes her consort. I mean, that's not really a spoiler. I mean, he has a point of view in, like, chapter 2. You know who he is. So it's not really a spoiler. But Rigel, he's like a fae assassin. And he's... his personality, I would describe as he had the personality of a block of wood. The first time we met him, I knew he would kind of open up and get more of a personality later, but it was kind of hard at first because, like, Layla had to be suspicious of everyone. He was like a block of wood, so it was kind of hard to... It wasn't hard to get into it at first, but after the end of Hall of Blood and Mercy, which I loved, it was kind of... The very first book was kind of a... drop down, but Crown of Moonlight, which is book 2, and The Queen's Crown, I loved these. I gave both of them 5 stars. I just adored where it went because it skyrocketed from just really mediocre, I believe is how you say the word, to just really, really good, and I really enjoyed them. And the Fae got less petty, which was nice because they were kind of irritating in book 1 in that respect. But yeah, I super enjoyed these books, and yeah, really, really loved them. So yeah, I highly recommend them. This would be the second series you read if you want to get into this world. Okay, and while we're on that, I'm just going to go ahead and tell you about the first 2 books in the third Magic Forward series, and that is Pack of Dawn and Destiny. And the first book is Hunted, and the second book is United. We are currently reading the third book, Fated, right now. Like, we literally just started it today. But yeah, we're following a werewolf pack, actually, in Wisconsin. They're a little bit outside of Magic Forward, and our main character in this one is Pip. She is actually a werewolf hunter, which is kind of like a supernatural being. They're like a subcategory of a wizard, where they have the powers and the magic ability to, like, sense werewolves, trap them, be able to fight against them, where, like, another type of supernatural or even a human would have no chance against them. And in the very first book, Hunted, Pip is just living her normal life with the northern lake pack. Sorry, I forgot their name for a minute. And she is a werewolf hunter living among the werewolves, which most people think is weird, but she was adopted by them, and she's just living with them when suddenly this feral werewolf attacks her in the middle of the city. It tries to go after humans in their city because this pack of werewolves lives in a city with a small town with a bunch of humans, and you know, they kind of just have a relationship with them there. But this feral werewolf from a different pack tries to attack their humans, and they find out it's this magical substance that was in them that basically strips away their humanity. Because, like, when the werewolves are in wolf form, they still have their humanity and their intelligence and stuff, but this magical substance wipes that away. And people are trying to pin this, on the Northern Lake Pack, which they were like, we haven't done this, and their alpha, Grayson. So basically, Grayson and Pip, Pip doesn't really like Grayson, but they kind of just team up together to try to figure out who's threatening their pack. And that storyline kind of continues into United, which is the second book, but it's a little more deadly because in that one, there's a rogue werewolf turning humans into werewolves without their permission. Basically, they're biting them and turning them into werewolves, and these humans never wanted that, so then they have to team up again to kind of defeat that person. So I really enjoyed these. I wasn't sure at first. The very first book, Hunted, there's a lot of... The author was very thorough in doing the different types of how you can turn into a werewolf and be a werewolf and stuff like that. Sometimes it was a little confusing. She did reiterate certain things in, like, say, the second book or even the third book. She's reiterating certain things. It was a little confusing at first. I applaud her diligence and efficiency in coming up with multiple ways that this could happen. In a nutshell, sometimes it was a little confusing, so sometimes I wish she hadn't done that. And then there were a lot of wolves in the pack and werewolves and stuff, and then there were humans living with the werewolves because you don't have to be a werewolf to marry one or whatever, and just there were a lot of people to juggle at first. But I still really enjoyed it. I gave Hunted 4.5 stars. That is the first book, and because I really like Pip. Out of the 3 main girl characters so far, between Hazel, Layla, and Pip, Pip is the most down-to-earth one. She is the most human out of all of them, and I don't know, she was just like, I related to her in a way where it's just like, you know, she's a small-town girl, she's an outdoorsy type, she lives with werewolves. I mean, aside from the living with werewolves part, that's kind of what I am, a small town, you know, like country girl and stuff. And she like wants a relationship with someone, but the thing is, it's really hard to be in a dating life when, you know, you live with a pack of werewolves and the werewolves see you as just a cute puppy. So there's that part going, and I just found her very relatable and very grounded. Not that Layla and Hazel weren't, they were just more in the supernatural type, more elements where Pip wasn't, and I just really enjoy her, and I connect with her in a way of just feeling like she doesn't really fit in with the pack of werewolves because she's not a werewolf, but she also doesn't really fit in with the werewolf hunters that come to investigate this feral werewolf situation either, because they're irritating. I mean, at least their leader's irritating. I hated him. But yeah, and it's just that dynamic. I also really like Grayson. I forgot to mention in these series, too, we get perspectives from the male love interest as well, which is really nice, because a lot of the times when it's just one, I don't know, I like the dual perspective when authors do it. So, Grayson's a very interesting character too. I really like him. He's just also just very down to earth. I mean, he's a little bit more of the supernatural type. Obviously, he's a werewolf, so, you know, there's that different dynamic, and I just really enjoy these books. Yeah, so I gave Hunted, I'll show the covers again. I gave Hunted 4.5 stars, and I gave United 5 stars, because the way this book ended, out of all of them, I would say the violence is more intense. This author writes very clean stories, so you don't have to worry about, like, blood and guts and stuff like that. There's never any of that, but in the fighting styles, though, the werewolves are the most intense ones. So Pack of Dawn and Destiny has the most intense violence that I would say. It's just because, like, at the very end, you know, with the whole werewolf thing and stuff, when at least the end of United, even the end of Hunted, when they were fighting these people, it's just, it felt more intense. The Faye series didn't feel that much, and Hazel series, yeah, there were several intense moments in that one too. So, but yeah, the violence just felt more, I'm not quite sure how to say it besides intense, because yeah, it just felt that way. I don't know if it's more because a lot of times the werewolves are fighting in their wolf form, so it just felt more that way. I'm not sure. But yeah, I really enjoyed these, and I'm really, really excited to see how Fated's gonna end, especially in the romantic department, because most of these romances kind of carry over all 3 books. You know, it's like a slow burn romance, so yeah, so I'm very excited to see how she's going to wrap this one up. Okay, let's see, let's kind of just go with the last one I have on the iPad to show you guys, assuming I can find the cover. Here it is. This one I'm going to have the most fuzzy memories on, because I read this like end of February, beginning of March, so I'll do my best. And that is The Gods Created Monsters by Nikki Chapelway. This is the first book in the What the Gods Did series, and it's part of her larger universe of Rusticar, I believe is how you say the world's name. I've read several books in this alter-connected world, universe thing. It's kind of like Magic Forward in that sense, except these are epic fantasy. And in this one, the best pitch sentence I can come up with is, with The Gods Created Monsters, it's basically Dungeons and Dragons meshed with Guardians of the Galaxy from Marvel, the Marvel movies. So if you know anything about both of those, I really don't know much about either one, except for, I mean, I know the Guardians a little bit because my family and I didn't watch their specific movies, but we did watch Infinity War, which they are a big part of. So I kind of have a sense of their dynamic, and I don't really know much about Dungeons and Dragons, aside from it's like role-playing game. It has lots of fantasy elements. So, but that's how the author has described it. So there is that. And in this story, we follow 4 different characters. They're all like various people. One's a disgraced scholar. One, her family was literally just murdered and she wants revenge on the person who did it. The third person, he is the girl's bodyguard, and he just wants to support her in any way he can and find his place in the world. And the fourth one is a thief who's looking for basically just a way out. And also we have, for the 5th member of the party, we have the main girl character's cat, who may or may not be a monster hunter. And these characters are all gathered by one person. He basically assigns them, okay, we know that the end of the world is going to happen in this 3rd era of our world. The end of the world's going to happen, the undead are going to come back, but to help the chosen ones out, I'm going to assign you guys as monster hunters. You're going to go out and you're going to like destroy some of these monsters that are cropping up everywhere, and let's just slow things down for the chosen ones. And in the span of, I think it's 1 or 2 years, if they do that job for him in 1 or 2 years, he will give them each what they want most. And they are just like, great, we all hate each other, we hate this idea, but if we can get what each of us want, fine, we'll do it. So literally, it's a bunch of misfits thrown together. They all hate each other. They all want to kill each other, and that's it. And they're thrown on this mission together to fight monsters. That is the main premise for the story. Contrary to the description and the, God's created monsters, the monsters part, they actually don't fight any monsters to the very end, which is fine, because, like I said before, these characters do not get along. They do not like each other. So, and several times, some of the characters are out to kill each other. So, most of this book is feeling very much like a gathering the team sort of story, where basically we have each of the characters, you see perspectives of each one's and what they want and their motivations and stuff, and they're just combining themselves together in a team. The thief character, he was the one I didn't like the most. He was just very irritating to me, but I did appreciate him by the end. If he continues on this upward climb of being less annoying and less I want to kill everybody else, I will like him more, but he has to get there first. But there's promise. I'll give him that. The other characters, my favorites were Ayla, that's the main girl character, and Conan. I love those two, and if you're looking for a romance, there's a really cute romance in there. I'll let you guess who that could be between, but I loved those two characters. They were just adorable. He's just like total sunshine cinnamon roll, and she is just a stabby grump, and I love them. The cat is a really interesting addition. I really like how she incorporated a cat into this. And yeah, I really love this story. I got an arc for this book, like I said, way back in late February, early March, and I loved this book. I gave it 5 stars, really enjoyed it, and really looking forward to seeing the continuation of their story. If you want to know what other books are set in this world that are released as of now, there are 2. One is Rage Like the Gods, which I reviewed and really loved last year. In fact, it made it to my favorite of 2022 books. That is the Chosen One story. They're set in the same world as the Gods Created Monsters in the same time frame. And then there's a standalone story, which is called A Tale of Gods and Glory, that is set in the same world. But it's set like, I forget how many years in the past. But it's its own story. I read that one too, really enjoyed it. I think I also read that one last year. But yeah, really enjoyed those. So those are the other books in Nikki Chalpoy's Rusticar, universe series that are currently out. Okay. And I have 2 more books to talk about. Leave that one for last. I'm going to talk about now, I read another nonfiction book, and that is Fight Right, How to Write Believable Fight Scenes by Carla Hooch? I'm not quite sure how to say the author's name. This is amazing. I first heard about this from an author. She mentioned it on her blog, I think it was years ago. But I managed to remember the name and the title, and I really love this. This is it's just a basic form. It's just basic things on everything from hand-to-hand combat to weapons, and how to write and incorporate these things into your books where the readers can feel it, but it's not confusing for them or in any way with tons of jargon and stuff like that, and just how to write it more intensely. She has ideas of how to use regular objects as weapons, or different places of doing things and different ways of fighting, and all the things you need to write decent action scenes in books, which I do a lot of. I do not decent ones. I hope they're decent, but I write a lot of action scenes. I really like them in books and movies, and I write a lot of them in my stories, so this was kind of just a must-have book for me. In that case, I just really enjoyed it, really got a lot out of it. I will definitely be reading this and going over it again because currently I am editing book 1 of my Creaturely Chronicles series again, and I will definitely be referring to this when I'm redoing or looking over the fight scenes, because I already know from reading this I'm going to change a few things. I've already kind of reestablished how my one character fights in my head too, of just how he might approach things differently, being raised as a thief, as opposed to, say, a knight and stuff. So, yeah, it was really helpful to me. I highly recommend it if you're an author or a writer and you just want to write better action scenes. This is a really good book. It is a little expensive. I ended up getting it from another seller on Amazon for like several dollars cheaper. It's like $20. But it is very much worth it. But if you can find it cheaper through, like, say, other sellers on Amazon or any other type of used bookstore online or something like that, I would recommend it though. But yeah, even if you do have to pay full price, it's totally worth it. So yeah, highly recommend that one. Gave it 5 stars. I'm pretty sure I said that, but I'll just repeat it. And the last book I have to talk about, I'm not sure I'm going to be able to talk about it because I don't even know. And that is The White Slipper by Brittany Fisher. This is the first book in the fairy tale retelling, a Neverland fairy tale tale. It's a novella series where basically these are like stories that are like tales, legends that her characters in one of her Classical Kingdoms series books have told. Are retelling. She's basically telling lesser known fairy tale retellings in smaller packages. And it's kind of like attached as legends to her main fairy tale series. I hope that made sense. So yeah, this one is a retelling of The White Slipper. I never heard of The White Slipper. I don't know where it's from or anything, but in this one, Princess River's River's father is like injured at one point and he needs this like magical wooden slipper on his foot at all times to keep him healed. Unfortunately, at one point he loses it, and he basically then just offers, he sets out a decree that anyone who can make a replacement shoe to save his life will gain River's hand in marriage. She is not happy about this though, because her father always said she could choose who she could marry, and now he's kind of seems to be revoking it. We also follow, in this story, a poor apothecary named Elliot, and he believes he can find the thing that will save the king's life and make the slipper, because, yeah, there's just reasons why he wants to try for that and try for River's hand, and it is their story. It's Princess River's and Elliot's story, and, I mean, it's very small. There's not too much I can say, but I went into this book, I was afraid at first I wasn't going to like it, which is a silly fear, but I know probably all of us have felt it if we really, really love an author's work. We're afraid every time we open one of their books that we're not going to like them. And Brittany Fisher has become one of my favorite authors, and I just was afraid I wouldn't like it when I started it, and I ended up finishing it in like 2 days because I don't know, it was the story I needed at the time, just the way River and Elliot just take things in their own control and and gain the courage to step forward and just kind of like gain their own destinies, gain their own ways of doing things and stuff. And I just really loved it. It really hit me. It really touched me. I just adore this book. I honestly don't know how to describe it. It does also have a new cover now. I actually bought this before the cover was switched, so yeah, it's a very pretty like purple dress and stuff, but I don't know, I just really like this cover even though it is the old version. And yeah, but this story, it's just, I don't know how to describe it. I didn't even know how to describe it on my Goodreads review. I tried, but it was just something about River's and Elliot's stories and how they were striving to do the right thing and to just, even if they didn't agree with it at first or just whatever, it's just they tried so hard and they were doing the best they could, and I just loved them, and I love this book, and I really don't know what else to say, even though it's like I want to talk about it, but also at the same time I'm like, I don't know how to talk about it. It makes no sense, but here we are. So yeah, that is the last book I have to talk about today. Yeah, this is kind of a longer video, sorry about that guys, but I just really wanted to get into it, especially with all those different Magiford series. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. yeah, if you leave a comment down below if you guys have either read some of these books, want to read them, have further questions about them, whatever. Like I said, if you want more questions about, if you have more questions about like content and stuff like that, maybe details I forgot, my reviews for each of these books are linked in the description down below, so you can check those out before like asking further questions about them in the comments. So yeah. Like and subscribe if you want. If you don't, feel free. And yeah, I'll see you next time, guys. I hope you have a great day, and thanks so much for watching. Bye!